Good evening, you're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq greets His Excellency the President of Dominican Republic on his country's independence anniversary. And Ethiopia's Prime Minister orders final offensive against the dissident Tigray leaders. Those are the headlines, and now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq has sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency Luis Abinader, President of the Dominican Republic, on his country's independence anniversary. Sultanate of Oman expresses its deep sorrow over the attack on a petroleum products distribution station north of Jeddah in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It renews its call to everyone to work on avoiding escalation and responding to the UN's calls to find a quick settlement for the crisis in the Republic of Yemen for the interest and stability of all countries in the region. Authorities said a mine in the Red Sea off Saudi Arabia's coast near Yemen exploded and damaged an oil tanker. The incident was the latest targeting the kingdom aimed its long war against Yemen's Houthi rebels. The blast happened yesterday and struck the MT Agrari, a Maltese-flagged Greek-managed oil tanker near Sheikh, Saudi Arabia. The ship was still floating off the coast and had been boarded by Saudi officials. Saudi state television said a military coalition led by the kingdom destroyed a bomb-laden Houthi drone boat and that a merchant ship sustained slight damage. The explosion comes after a cruise missile fired by Houthi rebels struck an oil facility early Monday in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The Red Sea is a vital shipping lane for both cargo and the global energy supplies, making any mining of the area a danger not only to Saudi Arabia but to the rest of the world. Mines can enter the water and then be carried away by the currents, which change by the season in the Red Sea. Ethiopia's Prime Minister said today the army had been ordered to move on the embattled Tigray regional capital after his 72-hour ultimatum ended for Tigray leaders to surrender, and he warned the city's 500,000 residents to stay indoors and disarm. The tankers and other weaponry can close in on Mekelle, whose residents were warned of no mercy if they didn't move away from Tigray leaders in time. The United Nations has reported people fleeing, but communications and transport links remain severed, and it's not clear how many people received the warnings in time. The international community is pleading for immediate de-escalation, dialogue and humanitarian access as Ethiopian forces have fought their way through Tigray to Mekelle. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's last year Nobel Peace Prize winner has rejected international interference. His government has said 3 high-level African Union envoys for the conflict can meet with Abiy, but not the Tigray leaders. Yemen's Houthi rebels confirmed they have given the green light for a UN mission to inspect and repair a long-abandoned fuel tanker, which threatens to rupture and cause a massive oil spill. The UN has been trying to assess the FSO safer for years, but the Iran-backed Houthis who control much of Yemen's north after a war that erupted in 2014 have so far denied access. The 45-year-old vessel abandoned near the western port of Hodeidah since 2015 has 1.1 million barrels of crude on board, and a rupture or explosion would have disastrous environmental and humanitarian consequences. Apart from corrosion to the aging vessel, essential work to curb explosive gases in storage tanks has been neglected. The UN has said an oil spill could be catastrophic, destroying Red Sea ecosystems, shutting down the fishing industry and closing Yemen's lifeline port for 6 months. Studies show it could affect countries as far away as Djibouti and Eritrea, as well as Saudi Arabia, and expose more than 8.4 million Yemenis, many already vulnerable due to famine after years of war, to heightened pollution. The Trump administration plans to tighten sanctions on Tehran during its final months in power. The top U.S. envoy on Iran said as he urged President-elect Joe Biden to use the leverage to press for a deal that reduces the regional and nuclear threats posed by the Islamic State. U.S. Special Envoy for Iran, Elliot Abrams, praised Biden's national security advisor and nominee for Secretary of State as terrific people, cautioned against repeating what he saw as former President Barack Obama's mistakes in negotiating the 2015 nuclear deal. President Donald Trump left that deal unilaterally 2 years ago. Biden, set to take office on January 20th, has said he will return the United States to the Obama-era deal if Iran resumes compliance. In the meantime, Iran has ruled out negotiations over its missile program or changing its regional policy. Instead, it wants a change in U.S. policy, including the lifting of sanctions. Parts of India's southern coast were flooded today after a cyclone slammed into its shores, triggering heavy rain, uprooting trees and cutting power lines. Cyclone Nevar made landfall in Puducherry, a federal territory near the southern state of Tamil Nadu, with winds of up to 130 kilometers per hour. In Chennai, a coastal city of about 10 million, heavy rains flooded streets, knocked down trees and cut power for several hours. More residential areas were flooded and people remained indoors. India's vast coastal regions are often battered by cyclones. In May, nearly 100 people died after Cyclone Amphan, the most powerful storm to hit eastern India in more than a decade, ravaged the region and left millions without power. The novel coronavirus has killed more than 1.42 million people since the outbreak emerged in China last December. At least 60.43 million cases of coronavirus have been registered. Of these, over 38.53 million are now considered recovered. The United States is the worst affected country with 262,283 deaths. After the US, the hardest hit countries are Brazil with 170,769 deaths, India 135,223, Mexico 103,597, and the United Kingdom with 56,533 deaths. Latin America and the Caribbean overall have 440,211 deaths, Europe 390,074, Asia 190,919, the Middle East 76,191, and Africa 50,643 deaths. Russia reports record numbers for daily infections and deaths for the second time in less than a week, with 25,487 new infections and 524 deaths. Sudan's former prime minister and top opposition figure, Sadiq al-Mahdi, died from the virus. He was 84. Sweden's 41-year-old Prince Carl Philip and his 35-year-old wife, Princess Sofia, are self-isolating after testing positive for coronavirus. Meanwhile, crowds of anti-mask protesters turned out to support the owner of a Toronto barbecue restaurant who is defying lockdown orders and keeping his dining room doors open. Impatient fans confronted police as thousands lined up to say goodbye to Diego Maradona today at the Argentinian presidential mansion. Described as one of football's greatest stars, his body was lying in state. Fans threw bottles and metal fences at police near the Casa Rosada in the heart of Buenos Aires. Maradona's wooden casket was in the main lobby of the presidential office, covered in an Argentine flag, a number 10 shirt of the national team, and dozens of others of different soccer teams, thrown in by visitors who passed by in tears. Maradona died yesterday of a heart attack in a house where he was recovering from a brain operation on the 3rd of November. The line started outside the Casa Rosada only hours after his death was confirmed. Among those present were the renowned fans of Boca Juniors, one of his former clubs. Still to come in our news bulletin. Saiga village in the wilaya of Samail is rich with archaeological landmines that embody Omani history after all ages. Welcome back to the news from the Sultan of Oman television. Oman oil January 2021 price reached $47 and 89 cents per barrel. Oman oil price declined by 34 cents. The average price of Oman oil December 2020 delivery reached $41.11 per barrel, thus 49 cents lower than the price of November 2020 delivery. In the uppermost region in Oman, the governorate of Muscat, with its 4 wilayas, have witnessed over the past 5 decades tremendous development and enhancement in the standard of living, despite the governorate's difficult and rough terrains. Situated in the Straits of Hormuz, the governorate of Muscat is a vital marine passageway for marine transportation in the region. In line with Oman's Vision 2040, the government has been focusing on establishing more economic projects while maintaining the natural and heritage elements of the governorate. The current and future projects for the government include the new Kasab Hospital, Tibat Kasab Road, the fish farming project, and the development of the fishing harbour in addition to Musandam gas and power plants. The Governorate of Musandam has 7 public health service providers in addition to the new Kasab Hospital project with an establishment cost of 57 million Omani Rials. The government has also paid attention to provide a sufficient number of public education institutions in the area, with 17 fully furnished and equipped public schools. The wheel of development continues to roll in the Governorate of Musandam under the leadership of His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq, with more projects under their way to meet the community's requirements and reflect on the goals of Oman's Vision 2040. Saiga village in the Wilaya of Samil has many archaeological landmarks that embody parts of features of Omani history all over ages. The village is located on the western Hajar Mountains in the Wilaya of Samil. It contains some ancient houses, a public majlis, and an old Holy Quran school, and a flage that remains hot all days of the year. It also has 13 old mosques and some ancient stone writings. This is the Sultan of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq greets His Excellency the President of Dominican Republic on his country's independence anniversary. And Ethiopia's Prime Minister orders final offensive against the dissident Tigray leaders. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the studio and the newsroom, it's good night.